Hi, and welcome to Prep Talk. I'm your host, Jay Seymour, and with me is Rick Claus.
How you doing, Jay?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Well, good. Today we are here to talk about 70-410, which is our first exam in the MCSA for Windows Server 2012.
And that's called Install and Config
Of
Server 2012.
Server 2012.
Windows Server 2012.
That's true.
Use the proper terms.
The branding guys will yell at us.
Yes, which is not a good thing.
No. So this is your first exam, and it is really covering a lot of the basic stuff.
Yep.
So if I'm an IT guy with the CIA, why do I care?
Well, because a brand new server install and a brand new server implementation, you have to know the basics of how things work.
Okay.
So that goes from everything from literally doing the install, what are the install options, to basic configuration. I mean, if you think of what are the essential services you have to have when you have your server and your network up and running, you have to have Active Directory, you have to have file and print services for end users to use,
Sure.
and then you have to have the infrastructure to be able to make sure all those services go up and work. And so that's what this particular exam is going off and assessing and measuring.
And this isn't just you or me deciding what goes into this. This is literally subject matter experts from around the world
Yep.
that Microsoft flies in, picks their brain, and tries to figure out what's important to them.
And the neat thing about that is it's not only just from around the world from different points of view, it's also different size organizations. So this applies to the CIA. This also applies to Bob's Hardware down the store. So it can be a single box, it can be multiple boxes. All the same stuff applies. It's rudimentary information that you have to have in the real world.
Well, and it covers things, you mentioned Active Directory, like
Yep.
security. That's probably pretty important at the CIA.
Yeah. Now, some things haven't changed as much over the years. Like Active Directory has definitely had some improvements over the years. But the basics and the fundamentals, how to make groups, how to put users inside of groups, how to assign those to security access control entries for access control lists to control stuff. Kind of jumping ahead here, but it's the basic nuts and bolts for what you're using Active Directory for.
Yeah.
Manage your user objects and your computer objects and your group objects inside your environments, and then applying that to different functionality inside your server systems.
Sure. And some of the new things are like virtualization. While it's not super new, it's something that's really popular these days and really touches base onto what the IT guys of the future are going to be doing.
Now, I like the fact you said it's not exactly new. I actually was given a book by a friend of mine that was from 1972 talking about virtualization. So it's been around for a while, but yes, it's a core skill. So just like it's important to understand how to stand up a server, you have to have the skills to be able to do virtualization effectively, because no one is installing a single purposed box with a single workload on top of that anymore. It's not efficient to be able to do that. So virtualization core skills, in this case Hyper-V, and how that works inside your environment for the basics and nuts and bolts is inside this particular exam.
And the last thing I want to mention is that you talked about network services. Mm-hmm. This test covers a lot of the fundamental stuff. And you see a lot of people that talk a big game about Active Directory or virtualization, and really to discriminate somebody who really knows what they're talking about, sometimes they forget about that fundamental network services.
That's true. I mean, if you don't understand the basic concept of IP addressing, subnetting, and how that applies to how services are offered up to your end users, you're not going to have a very efficient system. You're going to end up with problems that potentially you're not going to be able to diagnose if you don't have those core skills. And so, on this particular exam, they do talk about IPv4 addressing. They also talk about the next generation IPv6 addressing as well. But don't be surprised if all of a sudden it comes up and it starts asking you questions like, how many hosts can a 24-bit subnet mask handle on a C-class network?
Yeah.
Because that's the stuff that if you've been in the industry for a long time, you learned a long time ago, and maybe you kind of are a little bit rusty on it right now.
You take it for granted these days.
But stuff like subnetting actually applies to Active Directory site configuration.
Sure.
You have to associate your subnets with site config for sites and services with Active Directory, or you don't have an optimal network. Users can't log on and find the local and/or closest domain controller to them if you don't have a good site design inside Active Directory. So that's actually inside things like this particular course to be able to resolve that.
Well, great. Well, we appreciate you coming around.
Hey, no problem, man.
You've been watching Prep Talk, and this is 70-410, installing and configuring Windows Server 2012, the first in the MCSA for 2012. We'll see you next time.